I'm an Australian who lives in Australia, and you're probably wondering why I care about the Arizona Coyotes in the first place. In this video, I'm going to tell you about how I got into hockey, how I first learnt about hockey, and why the Arizona Coyotes were important in that process, why they're important to me as a sporting team, and why I'm super bummed that they're going to be moving to Utah. As an Australian, obviously, it shouldn't really matter where the team is for me to support them. And I'll say right off the get-go, I'm actually a New York Rangers fan. Contextually, we will get to why I am upset for the Arizona fans and for Arizona in general. But we'll explain my backstory a little bit first. I'd never learnt about hockey. I'm from Australia, so we don't really have big hockey leagues here. I'm just listening for my kid, seeing what he's doing. I've been thinking of a way to make this video for the last 3 or 4 days, and to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure. I don't even know if any of you will care about it, but I just wanted to get my thoughts on paper or on screen, or just get it out of here and into here, or you know what I mean? Because I am bummed. I'm super bummed about the Arizona Coyotes moving, the Phoenix Coyotes. They were the first hockey team I liked. And that sounds really strange, especially when you factor in the fact that they're in the desert. I'm in Australia. Like, I'm on the other side of the planet. I could have picked any team. But when I first started getting into hockey, I did pick the then Phoenix Coyotes. And I want to explain to you why, and why it means I'm bummed today and all that sort of stuff as well. Because they're moving to Utah. Of all places, Salt Lake City in Utah. Which is just, like, I'll explain the context. For those of you that don't know me, I was an American immigrant for 5 years or so. That's what the channel was started as. Was like I'm learning about America while I'm here, and things have grown, and I'm back in Australia now with my 2 kids as a single dad, and we're doing our stuff as we go. I ended up being a New York Rangers fan when I was in America. Like, the way, we'll start at the beginning though, right? My first ever job. I got my first ever job in 2007. I worked for a place called Census, which is the white and yellow pages, not census as in like the government survey, but census as in like SENSIS. And they ran the white and yellow pages. And so I was just like editing lists. For those of you that don't know what the white and yellow pages are, this is pre-internet days. It was literally a big ass fucking book with everyone's name in it and phone numbers and whatnot. If you watch the Terminator, classic movie, that's how Terminator goes through and finds all the Sarah Connors. He's looking in the phone book and he's like, I'm going to kill that Sarah Connor, then that Sarah Connor, then that Sarah Connor. But anyway, I worked there, and it was my first ever job, and I started sitting in a cubicle next to a guy who listened to every Phoenix Coyotes game on the radio, with Bob Heathouse and Tyson Nash calling every game. And so, because of the quirks of time differences, I would be at work, and almost every day throughout the whole season, I would hear at least a game of hockey, whether it'd be, some Canadian team that he was following, or if it was the Coyotes that day, we'd be listening to the Coyotes. Now, that guy was obsessed. He was in love with Shane Doan. He still is to this day. He nearly backflipped. Nearly did a backflip when Josh Doan had his debut earlier in the year. But he was like, even then, it was, professional sports was, like, there's no loyalty in professional sports between players and teams, It's a sort of a mercenary attitude, and there are players that, they'll go to whatever team pays them the most, and that's pretty standard in professional sports. But Shane Doan left money on the table, and he refused to go to other teams because his team had been relocated after his first season in Winnipeg, and then he wanted to make it work in Phoenix, and that was really admirable, and he loved Shane Doan for that. And the reason he was into hockey was because the guy that had sat in my seat prior to me being there, like, I was hired to replace this guy who had retired. He was originally from Winnipeg and had moved out of Winnipeg when the Jets did in the early 90s, and he moved to Australia, and he followed the Coyotes, but he wasn't like a local team fan or anything like that. That guy probably is going to follow the Utah situation now as well, I guess, because he followed the franchise and stuff. But, like, him moving from Canada to Australia and bleeding out his Coyotes support onto the people around him, he then retired, and I replaced him, and the people that he'd bled on then bled onto me, and so I got into the hockey as well. So it was about 10 years before I went to America and before I moved to America that I was already into hockey, It was one of the reasons I moved to America, was because I knew that, hey, at least they've got good sport, Like, I'm into sport. I can, they don't have cricket there, they don't have AFL there, but they've got hockey, and hockey's fucking cool, so yeah, let's do that. And on my road trip from LA to New York, we specifically stopped in Arizona. Like, it was during the off season of the hockey, so we didn't see any hockey, unfortunately, but I wanted to make a point to stop in Arizona and support some Arizona businesses based on my love for the Coyotes at the time. And like, the only reason I'm not still a Coyotes fan is because in 2018, late 2018, when I came to the States, I looked up, like, I was in New York City, I was doing touristy stuff. I looked up if there was any hockey on because it was in the hockey season, and the Vegas Golden Knights were playing against the New York Rangers. I had a soft spot for the Vegas Golden Knights because I have a soft spot for any expansion team or new team in any competition. I like the process of sporting clubs being created. I like the, you know, like the mascots and the colours, and like I like creating my own ones from time to time. It's a fun thing I do just to pass the time. And so seeing how other people do it and like do it legit, that's an actual team. That's not just, you know, you creating one for fun or whatever. Like, it's a cool process to go down. And so I had a soft spot for the Golden Knights, and I was like, well, the Golden Knights are playing in New York City, playing at Madison Square Garden. Like, what a thrill. I'll go to Madison Square Garden. And I had a bit of inheritance at the time. Like, my dad died when I was a kid. He was a dickhead. But unbeknownst to us, we didn't realise his mum was holding on to a bunch of inheritance that he got or was entitled to when his dad died. And his dad, like, we ended up getting it once his mum died because she was a cunt and didn't let her kid have it and whatnot. Long story, boring story. But I got a bunch of inheritance. I had money to burn. I was in New York City, and I was like, hey, maybe I'll go to a hockey game. And I looked on StubHub for like cheap tickets down close to the ice. I was 3 rows from the ice at Madison Square Garden, bottom level. Jimmy Fallon was 4 rows behind me. That's how fucking good the seats were, was I had better seats than Jimmy Fallon, you know what I mean? And they were, I've never spent more money on tickets to anything in my life, in my entire life. Like, I've seen plays on Broadway, on the West End. I've seen all sorts of crazy entertainment and sport, but I spent over $1,000 on that ticket. But holy fucking shit, man! I've been into sport my whole life. I have always been into sport, and I understand loyalty to your team and all that sort of stuff. But I put it to you that I don't think anyone could go into Madison Square Garden as a neutral observer, as a fan of neither team, sit that close to the ice and not walk out a Rangers fan. Like, I'm a Rangers fan now as a result. You stay there, buddy. Don't come outside, please. All right, I'm filming. I love you. I know you can see me on the screen as well. It's interesting, isn't it? It's really frustrating that you're like super close to learning how that door works. Yeah, let's do this. I don't know if you can see his little hand there stretching up to the door handle, but anyway, maybe I'll pause this, go and play with him for a bit. His brother's still not yet up. It's 9:20 in the morning, and my 2-year-old has not got out of bed yet. Most days I would appreciate that, but today I'm like, it's a beautiful day. Can we get out of the house and leave and do stuff? But I'll pause this and come back. Like, remind me, I was at Madison Square Garden. That's where I'm up to in the process. And I'm back. I was at Madison Square... Was I at Madison Square Garden? I'm pretty sure I was at Madison Square Garden at this point. 2018, and I was like checking out the Vegas Golden Knights and the Rangers, and as a neutral observer, I went into the stadium, and I had really phenomenal seats, and I bought into it, you know what I mean? Like, I was really into it, and I decided on the spot I would become a Rangers fan. And so I've been a Rangers fan ever since, but I've always had a soft spot for the Coyotes because they're what got me into hockey, and I think this is one of the best logos in all of sports. I don't care what anyone says, you know what I mean? But that was how, you know, my hockey fandom started, was remotely following the Coyotes, and then when I got to America, following the Rangers. Now, I did live in the Buffalo area. I went to more Sabres games than anyone else, but that did not have the same effect on me as, like, Madison Square Garden in the middle of New York City does, which I'm sure you can understand. Also, the Sabres aren't a very good team, comparatively towards the New York Rangers, who, you know, they weren't doing as well then as they are now, but they were still on the up. And Henrik Lundqvist stood on his head the night that I was there, and it was it was really fun. But, point being, when we went, like, that was on my holiday in 2018, and then I moved to America in 2019, and we road tripped from LA to New York, and I made a specific stop in Arizona. That's when I bought this hat for the Sun Devils. I made a specific stop in Arizona because I love the Coyotes so much. And, like, I have a soft spot for... Like, I have friends that live in Phoenix as a result of, you know, online friendships that I made while I was supporting the Coyotes and all that sort of stuff. And I feel for them dramatically. I would probably have still had a soft spot for the team regardless of where they were. Like, I live in Australia. It doesn't realistically make a difference to me if the team plays in Arizona or Quebec or Hamilton or anything like that, you know what I mean? Like, other than the pain for the staff members and the fans of the team and stuff, it doesn't make that much of a difference to me. But, like, anywhere but Utah, you know? Like, anywhere but Utah. That's just... On that same road trip, as I was going through America, from LA to New York, the one negative experience we had was in Utah. And you can actually, now I mention it, it's kind of funny, you can watch that in my travel playlist. If you go to my travel playlist, it was 4 or 5 years ago now, but that was when I first started the channel, was vlogging at that road trip across America, right? And they stopped us in Utah because they thought I was abusing my at-the-time girlfriend. She went on to become my wife, and then my ex-wife, and the mother of my children, and all that sort of stuff. But, like, I wasn't. We weren't even arguing. Like, it just some random fucking Mormon on the side of the road, because she was black and I was foreign with tattoos. That's what the cops said. Like, specifically, that's how they presented it to me after the fact. Because I was a white guy with a shitload of tattoos, and she was black. We were obviously up to trouble. And... like, I still can't get past, like, I mean, go and watch it after this one if you want. But there's, like, we're driving through Utah and they pulled us to the side of the road and separated us and stuff. And the police officer, like, he said, do you have any ID? And I gave him my passport. And he was like, do you have anything else? And I was like, why would I have any American ID? Use your brain. Because I've just, you know, as an Australian, you're in, like, police officers don't act like that to you in Australia. You know what I mean? Police officers have more of a fucking brain than American police officers. And I'm okay with saying that. I've lived in both places. If you're an American that gets offended by it, you don't know what you're talking about. I do. So sit there in your offence and be offended. I don't care. American police, in general, are far, far more stupid than Australian police. Australian police need 2 degrees before they're allowed on the force. Anyway, as a result, I'm, you know, used to assuming the person I'm talking to is not a fucking brain-dead idiot. But at the point that it was obvious he was in Utah at the time, he accused me of my passport being fake, right? He's looking at it and he's like, is this even real? I think this is fake. And I just laughed in his face, openly scoffed at him, saying, yeah, you know what, mate? Like, 2 different sets of international customs, one in Sydney, one in LA. They both missed it. But little regular duties, Utah, I'll never forget, like, cause he was so angry that I called him little old regular dude, he's Utah you. Like, you got me, bro, you tricked, like, you caught me. 2 sets of customs didn't, but you got me. And I'm like, it's a beautiful part of the world. I shouldn't not like Utah because of that interaction or the you know, fucking half-hour period of time we spent communicating with Utahans, like Utahd's, I don't know. And that was good. Utahd's. That came out of nowhere, but I like that. My one interaction, like, I loved the salt flats. And I loved the mountains, the rocky style sort of mountains of Utah. It was probably one of the most picturesque and physically beautiful places in the United States that we drove through, you know what I mean? It was absolutely astoundingly beautiful. But our interaction with the police, our getting pulled over, and our racial profiling, as well as just profiling in general, like, I have had an irrational hatred for anything Utah since, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even get me started on Mormons. Like, I have done so many deep dives religion-wise. I'm not sure if you're getting smashed with vibrations there. Sorry, my mate Mitch is sending me a million messages on Instagram. But, no, point being is, like, Mormons, specifically, like, I've watched so many different documentaries on Mormons, and I have a really good friend who is an ex-Mormon, and I specifically, like, well, how's this for controversial, right? Like, if you're a Mormon and you're considering unsubscribing because of what I'm saying right now, do it. I don't care. I want you to, in fact. Like, Mormonism is weird as fuck, and you're weird as fuck if you're into it. Like, pick a different religion, pick a different denomination. That one's weird. The Mark of Cain? Really? Really? Like, that's just fucked up. My kid's a mixed race. My ex-wife is black. You want to have a conversation about spiritualism or religion or whatever, by all means. We'll start at the Mark of Cain, Mr. Mormon, and we'll go from there. Then we'll talk about the sanctity of temple and stuff like we could. Anyway, Utah is my least favorite American state as a result of my lived experience and the fact that after all this time, Like, when I first started getting into hockey, it was controversial, and it was, oh, are they going to go to Quebec? Oh, no, they're going to go back to Winnipeg. Winnipeg wants the team. They have the funding. And, like, it was right around that time that Atlanta went and became the Jets 2.0. And it feels like 20 years. That it's just, like, the threat of relocation has been there. And it wouldn't bother me so much if it wasn't fucking Utah. You know? Like, it's frustrating because I won't support them as a pro team. I won't support them. Like, I want to be able to follow them and be like, yeah, I've, you know, supported that team in fucking several different locations or whatever. But, like, I just have this irrational hatred for anything Utah as a result of my lived experience and racial profiling and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm just bummed. I'm bummed by it, but I'm running out of time here and memory and whatnot. We'll see how quickly I can get this edited and uploaded. These are the people that support my channel monetarily. You could do that too, and you'd get your name in that list. I like money. Turning some of your money into mine on a monthly basis would be ideal, but I understand this was sort of just a ranty video, so no pressure if you don't feel like this one deserves your money or anything like that. I'm going to do some more reaction videos today. I've got shorts. If this is the first time you've seen me, poke around the channel, decide if you like me. Then hopefully hit subscribe and, like, you know, consider giving me money. But don't worry about it if you don't. If you're at this point, if you're still watching this video right now, you've probably already seen 3 ads or whatever, so you're helping me get money anyway. I'll see you when I look at you. You'll see me when you look at me. Fuck Utah.